here, you will learn to mass scale your outreach with just one click of a button. I will teach you how to generate 2,000 plus leads per day and send them personalized cold emails, which will result in a 20 to 25% response rate. No social proof necessary. Not only can you offer this as a service to clients, but you can use this yourself if you already have a skill or if you want to outreach to prospects offering the service by using the service. First, I'll show you how you can take a spreadsheet of leads that a client gives you, which will go through and create a personalized email for each lead. In the module after that, you will learn the full span cold email outreach automation, which will start from generating leads all the way to automatically sending out the email campaign. Outreach has never been easier. Getting clients has never been easier. Detail. The first build will take an input spreadsheet of leads from you or a client containing details like the lead's email, name, LinkedIn URL, etc. We will use that information to fill in the fields of an email template with AI-generated personalizations. Each personalized email will be saved in a new Google Doc for each lead in a specified folder. From there, you can review the emails or modify and send them automatically, which you will learn how to do in the following set of lessons. This approach is ideal if you or the client wants to generate the emails and then send them manually from the desired domain, saving the time it takes to research a prospect and create a tailored outreach. The following build will be a full automation from back to front, requiring subscribed tools like LinkedIn Sales Navigator and Phantom Buster, which will be used to generate the leads, and Instantly.ai to run the email campaign. With this system, you can easily send 1,000 plus personalized emails in just a few hours. While there are some costs to reach this level of outreach, there are cheaper ways to achieve similar effects, just with lower volume. Proceed to the next module, where I will teach you how to build the first system from scratch. To the start of our first automated outreach system. We will be building this with Make.com, formerly known as Integromat. This will be our main tool for automated outreach. Make.com is an automation platform that helps you connect different apps and create workflows without coding. Using a simple drag and drop interface, you can set up custom workflows or scenarios to handle repetitive tasks. It integrates with a lot of apps and other AI tools that you will discover in the courses. To get started with Make, navigate to Make.com. Now, let me quickly explain how Make works. It uses modules to connect different apps and integrations, which you will see in the next lesson. Each time one of these modules is run, it counts as an operation. By default, Make gives users free access to their platform, which comes with 1,000 operations a month. The automation I am about to teach you won't be completely free, but it is incredibly cheap. Throughout the lessons, I will also show you how you can minimize the cost, which can take a bit more manual work, but will be the closest to free this can get. Just to preempt, I will be showing you how to step-by-step make this automation so that you can get a better understanding of how automations work, which will help you build these systems for yourself, but I will also put a lesson at the end that provides the template for this build and explains what you should do if you simply want to take the template and make some changes for your use case. So to summarize, this build will be able to take a huge spreadsheet of leads and create personalized cold emails for each one. I'm going to show you how to build this in the next lessons, which you should still go through, but I'm also going to give you the template at the end if you just want to take this and use it for yourself or sell to a client. Now let's get set up with an account. So on Make, you just want to go up to Get Started Free. From here, you can sign up with Google or manually enter your name, email, and password. I'm just going to do Google, and then you'll be greeted by this page. You see your dashboard, active scenarios. You don't really need to worry too much about that now. The main tab is the scenarios, which we will jump into in the next lesson. Let's go ahead and create a new scenario. This is our scenario builder. This is where we can put together our modules, these little circles that will connect together and send information between each other, perform actions, collect data, etc. So first, let's get a Google Sheets module. We can just click this plus button and then hit Google Sheets. From here, we want to do search rows. This is what our input spreadsheet of leads looks like. We have the first name, last name, title, company, company name, email, and so on. The main variables that we're going to be collecting is going to be the first name, the email, the link to the company's LinkedIn, and the company name. So what this Google Sheets search rows function does is goes through each row in our spreadsheet. Since it's the first time we're using this Google Sheets, we want to go ahead and create a connection. From here, we want to sign in with the Google account that has the lead spreadsheet in the Google Drive. Let's go ahead and do that. Sign in with Google. From here, we can just enter our email, password. So now you can see we've successfully connected to our Google account that has our lead spreadsheet. So what we want to do is enter a spreadsheet ID and sheet name. We want to select from My Drive. Then we want to go to spreadsheet, and I'm just going to select leads demo because that's the name of our spreadsheet, which you can see here. From there, we want to get the sheet name. This is called UK Rapid Growth 300 Emails. Copy, select that. Then we can set our column range, I'm going to set A to BZ because that's really all we need. You can see that our spreadsheet goes to BA, so technically we want enough rows to encapsulate all of these. And then we could set a filter if we'd like, which we don't need to. And for sort order, we'll leave it ascending, meaning it starts at the smallest row and goes to the highest row. We will also leave order by blank, but you could select order by row number, first name, last name, or any other columns that we'd like. And for the maximum number of return rows, this is so we can set a limit at how many rows this goes into. I'm just going to set this at 10. This is good just in case you click this button and then you accidentally don't stop it, so it doesn't waste unnecessary operations. So setting this at 10 means it's only going to be able to go through 10 rows in our spreadsheet, and then from here we can hit OK. Now this Google Sheets module is all set to go through and find data in our leads spreadsheet. So if I go ahead and run this once, this is going to run this module. Now you can see that it successfully ran, turned green with a green check mark. And if you want to see the data that it collected on that run, you could go ahead and hit this magnifying glass on the module. And this shows everything that returned. All of these modules have what are called bundles, and this is just basically the input and output data that you get. So for instance, the input was our sheet name, the column range, basically all of our leads. And the output is everything that it collected. So you can see in bundle 1, the first name is Sue, last name Thexton, managing director, company, etc. Give us all of the necessary information. Then you can see bundle 2 is the next row, bundle 3, and it goes all the way to 10 bundles because that's the limit we set on the number of bundles that it's going to collect. So cool, we have successfully gotten all of our information that we need. Now let's add a set variables module. So to do that, I'm just going to come into this tools down here and then look for set multiple variables. And then from here, it automatically connects to our Google Sheets module, meaning that this is going to run and then this will run. It basically just follows the line of how we connect things. Each module has an input and an output unless it's the starting or ending module. If I wanted to unlink this, I could right click and hit unlink, and now there is no link between the two, but I'm just going to go ahead and drag this back to connect. Now let's go ahead and set some variables. So let's go ahead and add an item. The first variable I want to collect will be called first name, and for the variable value, let's go ahead and grab the first name here. So basically, when you're entering fields in the modules, on the left-hand side will pop up the data that's been collected in the previous modules. So you can see from Google Sheets, number 1, search rows, this is all of the variables that it collected, with the total number of bundles being 10. So you can see here we have the first name and the actual data that's associated with that variable. So let's just select this here. Now let's add another item. Let's collect the company name and just name it as so. Then for the variable value, we'll go ahead and select the company name for emails, which is the name of our column in the spreadsheet. Now let's add another item. Let's grab the personal LinkedIn. So I'm going to call this personal LinkedIn. And then for the variable value, we'll get the person LinkedIn URL, add an item, call this company LinkedIn. And for the value, grab the company's LinkedIn URL. And this spreadsheet also has links to their Twitter and Facebook, but I'm only going to be using LinkedIn for this demo since that's what we're going to be getting the data to form our personalizations off of. So from here we can hit OK, and if I run this, I can go ahead and click this magnifying glass, and you can see that this just consumed 10 operations. Now, I just want you to keep in mind, as I stated in the last lesson, Make.com gives you 1,000 operations for free. So as you're testing this, this is going to consume some operations. But what I'm going to show you later is that you can actually build this system out, export it as a blueprint, and then import it into a new Make.com account with a fresh 1,000 operations for free, and run that like so if you want to minimize some cost. So let's just check out these operations. If I want to just pick, say, operation 7, you can see from the 7th row, we have the first name, the company name, the personal LinkedIn URL, and the company LinkedIn URL. And this is valuable information that we're going to access in the later modules. And I'll show you right now why these will be useful. So if I just take a look at the first template I'm going to be using as an example for this demo, you can see that we have these variables in double curly brace brackets. So this is the dynamic variables that will be inserted for each email in our automation. So you can see first the subject line will be first name, and then at the start of the email we'll have hey, and then their first name, and then we'll have the icebreaker. Now this is where the AI is really going to stand out and create the personalization. This icebreaker is basically going to custom tailor the email to them, which will dramatically increase response rates. So towards the end, when we need to dynamically insert these variables such as first name, we're just going to pull that from the variable that we've saved here. Now, if this is confusing to you, variables and whatnot, don't worry. The more you go through these lessons, the more you'll understand. And there will also be weekly workshops that will get you more familiar with these tools and these terms. So now that we have accessed our leads in our Google Sheet and saved them all in variables, now what we need to do is web scrape the leads company LinkedIn. What I want you to think of as web scraping is the extraction from data from a URL. In this case, it'll just be going to the company's LinkedIn and getting basically all of the text that comes from the URL that they've given. So to do this, we're going to use a tool called Scrape Ninja. So go to rapidapi.com/restyler/API/Scrape Ninja/pricing. Now you can use this tool for free, but there are limits. So for the basic, which is free, you get up to 500 scrapes a month, meaning that if you were to use this for the first time, you could send out 500 emails. Now, if you were to run out of this rate, you could simply just create a new account and then you would be all set. You would just have to plug in your new API key, which is what I'm going to show you in a second. Or if you can go with the Pro, this gives you 100,000 requests a month, which is more than enough to fit all of your email needs. So let's just go ahead and start with a free plan. From here, you're going to want to sign up with a Rapid API account. I'm just going to log in with Google. And once you're all logged in, it's going to ask for your name, say despite, these don't matter. And then once you're done filling these out, you can submit. Now we can go ahead and start a free plan. Since it is a free plan subscription, there's no need to put in any credit or debit card. So let's just hit subscribe. What you want to do over here where it says target, switch from shell and scroll up to HTTP. This is going to be a HTTP request to this API. Now you don't really have to worry about what APIs are. Just a quick summary. It's basically a way to receive and transmit information across what are called endpoints, basically just ways to get and receive information. I will go more in depth with this in the no-code automation section, but right now the goal is to just get you up and running and show you how to build this email system. So now that we have all of this information here, what we want to do is head back to make.com and we're going to add a module, and this is going to be HTTP. And we're going to go to the make a request module. Now, if you're wondering how I just added this module here, you can just double click in the workspace and then you'll automatically add a module. Just right click to delete one. Next, we need to enter the URL for our API request. And that URL is going to be https://2// and then scrapeninja.p.rapidapi.com and then /scrape. So essentially we're adding the URL and then adding /scrape at the end, because if we go back to Scrape Ninja, you can see that we're using the post scrape method. So on the right hand side with the code snippets, you can also see here that we're using a post request. So if we head back to make.com, for the method, we want to change this to post. Now we need to add some headers. If you go back to this code snippet, you can see that we have this information that's formatted. Everything to the left of the colon is what is considered a header. And after this information is what's called the value for that header. You can also see the headers if you head to this headers tab here. So first thing, let's add content-type. Go back to make. The name is content-type. And then for the value, it's going to be application/JSON. So we just want to paste that for the value. Now let's add another header. This one's going to be our X Rapid API key. So just copy this text right here and then paste this as the name for the header. For the value, this is going to be your API key right next to the X Rapid API. The end of mine is blurred out, but essentially this is what's going to give you access to this tool. If anyone has this key, they can go ahead and access your usage for Scrape Ninja. So go ahead and copy this key, head back to the HTTP module, and then paste that in the value. Now, one last header, we need to add the host. So we're going to do X Rapid API host, paste that in the name. And for the value, we're going to copy this, which is scrapeninja.p.rapidapi.com, paste that there. And now we are all set with our headers. Now we need to actually put the information we are requesting from. So that's going to be our URL. If we go back to the code snippet, that's going to be this formatted data down here, which is in JSON format. So we want to go body type, raw, content type, JSON, and now we can add our request content. So let's go ahead back here, copy this demo request content, go back to make.com and then paste it here. Then I'm just going to format this out so it's a bit easier to read. And then from here, we can enter the variable for our HTTP request, which is going to be the company's LinkedIn, this variable that we saved in the last module. Now we can hit OK and test out this web scrape. I already know it's not going to work because I've tested this before, but let me just show you what this ends up looking like. I just hit run once and then click this magnifying glass. You can see that for our output data in one of the operations, we have type error cannot read properties of undefined. And that's because when saving our variables, if I go over to here, it's HTTP. And we actually need an HTTPS request, which is a very minor difference. It's just adding an S in front of this HTTP, and then this should work. So what we want to do is we want to use a replace function. If I come to this menu over here, we can see the different text and binary functions that make.com natively gives us. Now, again, you don't really have to worry too much about what this does. You can just follow along to what I'm doing. So let's go ahead and grab this replace function. If we want to read what this does, you can see that it replaces the text with whatever we want. So if we input hello world, and then in the second parameter, put in hello, and then in the third parameter, we put the word that we want to replace it with, the output is going to end up being hi world. So if I just put replace in here, we're going to add the company LinkedIn because that's the text that we actually want to modify. So I'll just head back over to this star, put the company LinkedIn variable here. And in the second parameter, we want to change the text that we want to replace. So I want to replace HTTP with HTTPS. Now, if we try this request again, we can just run this scenario. We've gotten the number 1, meaning it's been successfully run. Let me just stop the scenario, go ahead and click this magnifying glass, and we go to the output bundle. You can see that we have status code 200, which means, okay, we got some information back. If I go to data, you can see that we have this long list of information, which is the web scraped HTML from LinkedIn. And like I said, this is HTML, so it's pretty hard for us to read unless you know HTML. We have a bunch of HTML elements. So now that we've successfully web scraped LinkedIn, in the next lesson, I'm going to show you how you can take this HTML and put it into some natural language that's more meaningful to us, and then we can perform some operations to give to the AI. All right, so we have all of the HTML from our web scrape. Let's now get it formatted into something more readable for us and the AI. So let's just add another module here. What we want to find is text parser. And then there's a function in the text parser that automatically converts HTML to text. So let's just add this. Now let's pass in our HTML, which is going to be the data block from our last HTTP make a request module. Now, if we run this, it's going to tell us that a transformer should not be the last module in the root. We can just ignore and run anyway. Just stop this really quick. Now, if we look at the text parser and we look at our output text, you can see now this is in a much more readable format. For those of you who don't know, an enter, meaning like a blank space, kind of like this, is also formatted as /n. And obviously we have a lot of this text that isn't useful to us, such as these links, a lot of these /n's, which makes this text way longer than it needs to be. So what we're going to do now is add another text parser and add a regex, which is going to get rid of everything that we don't want. So let's look for text parser. And we want to use the replace function, which tells us it searches a string. For those of you who don't know, a string is essentially a string of words. Think of it as any text, basically. This could be one word, this could be multiple words, basically any amount of words and characters saved into one variable. So it searches a string for a specified value or a regular expression and returns a new string where the specified values are replaced. It's basically what we did before with HTTP and HTTPS, but it's going to give us a bit more control and it'll do it a lot quicker with just one regex that we can pass in. Now, just to explain everything that I'm saying a bit better, let's jump over into ChatGPT. And inside of a new chat, let's ask ChatGPT what is a regex in terms of text parsing. I'm using it to remove unwanted elements from a string. Now, I could have just said what is a regex, but I wanted to give it a bit more context so it could be more helpful for us. Now let's send this through. So you can see it's a regular expression and it is a sequence of characters that defines a search pattern. It's commonly used in text processing to find, match, and manipulate text. So that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be finding patterns and manipulating them by essentially deleting them. This is just explaining the syntax, what the different symbols do in regex, but that's not too important. So what we're going to do now is add our regex. I've already created one, so I'm just going to paste this in. You can pause it on this screen right now if you want to enter this in. Make sure to include every character that I have here. But also, again, I will be providing the blueprint, which is the template for make.com, so you can just import this into your workspace and already have all of this information saved. Now, for the new value, this is the patterns that it's going to find. We want to replace it with what's called an empty string. So they give us these keywords in this A tab in make.com. So I'm just going to click empty string. This basically just means nothing. Then we want to enable global match. This is going to make sure that it finds all matching patterns. It doesn't just stop after the first pattern that it's found. We want to make it case insensitive. We also want to make it multi-line and leave single line at no. And for our variable, we want to go back to the star tab and add our text from our last text parser. Now, before I run this, let me just go and paste this into ChatGPT so you guys can see what this is kind of doing. I'm going to paste it in and say, what does this do? Simply output the things it removes. So it removes lines containing an asterisk, all of the /n symbols that we got, text that's enclosed in square brackets, and I did that to remove the URLs starting with HTTP or HTTPS, blank lines, lines containing only white space. So if I go back to our old text parser module and I look at our long text, you can see I wanted to remove all of these /n's. I wanted to remove lines with an asterisk, remove anything within square brackets, which you can see long links here, some blank spaces. So now if I go ahead and run this replace text parser module, let's just hit the magnifying glass to see what kind of information we're getting. If I click this text, you can see it's removed all of the ugly, unwanted elements that we don't really want, and it's just given us clean text about some of the posts from the LinkedIn scrape that we got. So this is what we're going to provide to the AI model for it to summarize and create personalization for us. I'm sure you can see now that this is much more readable and it won't waste unnecessary AI tokens by processing all of that long text. In the next lesson, we'll get set up with our OpenAPI account so we can use a GPT to formulate our personalizations. We are now ready to get set up with our AI models. To do that, we need to head to openai.com and create an account. So in your browser, type in platform.openai.com. From here, we need to create an account. You can log in or sign up. I'm just gonna hit sign up and then hit continue with Google. Once you're logged in, you'll be greeted by this interface. What you wanna do is go to settings and then billing. From here, we can add our payment details. To use OpenAI's GPT models, we need to add some form of payment because every time we use the AI model, it uses tokens, and tokens aren't free. However, they are extremely cheap. So what I recommend you do is add your payment details, go to individual, put in your card information. I recommend that you set up auto recharge, and that will make it so you can add $5 on your account, and then every time it dips below a certain amount of number that you set, it will add more money automatically from your card. Now I'm just gonna switch over to an account that already has all of this set up, and here's my auto recharge settings. So you can see I have it when credit balance goes below $5, I bring the credit balance back up to 15, and you really don't need any more than that because these models aren't that expensive. Next, you want to head back to the dashboard and then go to API keys. From here, you want to click this green button that says create a new secret key. Then give it a name. I'm going to call this leads demo, default project, permissions, all, and then hit create secret key. From here, you're going to get your secret key, and you want to make sure you copy this and save this because after you exit out of this window, you won't be able to access your key again. This is what's going to allow Make.com to access our OpenAI account and use their models. So once you have your key copied, go ahead and hit done, and then you can see here is a list of all of the keys that we have. Now back in Make.com, we want to add another module. We want to look up OpenAI, ChatGPT, click this, and then find create a completion. This is what you imagine your standard form of a GPT to be like, where it can generate text based off prompts. So let's go ahead and select create a completion. Then from here, we need to create a connection. So let's go ahead and click this. Then we have my OpenAI connection. Then we want to paste our API key that we just copied. Then we want to go back to platform.openai. Then from here, you want to head back to settings, go to organization on the left, and then copy your organization ID. Then back in Make.com, we can just paste our organization ID and then save. And now you can see we've successfully connected to OpenAI and we can use their models. In the next lesson, we'll get into getting all of our settings ready so the AI can create our personalization. Let's get started with our prompts. So in creating prompts for our AI model, a concept you should be familiar with from the AI demo builds section of the courses is a system prompt versus a user prompt. A system prompt tells the AI model how it should think, while the user prompt instructs it. So first, let's go ahead and select our model. I'm going to select GPT-4o, but just a quick reminder in terms of expensiveness of models, GPT-4 Turbo and GPT-4 are the most expensive. GPT 3.5 is by far the cheapest, and GPT-4o is a good middle ground. I would recommend going with 4o as it's on par with GPT-4, but it's much cheaper. You can get away with 3.5 if you're trying to be as cost effective as possible, but the quality of your personalizations can suffer. As always, this is something you can tweak with in the prompts to see if you can get away with something that you like with the GPT 3.5 model. But for now, I'm just going to select GPT-4o. For our max tokens, that's the amount of tokens we're going to allow the GPT to use in its completion, meaning how many tokens it can use to generate the output. I'm just going to set it to 256. Now we need to add some messages. This is where we can set our system prompt and our user prompts. So for the role, I'm going to type system, and the message content is the actual prompt that we want to provide for the system prompt. What I like to do for system prompts is visit this AI agent perfect prompt writer on relevance.ai. Don't worry about typing the link. I'm going to provide that below this lesson. As you can see, it says you can get perfectly structured prompts for your agents that ensures optimal usage of your knowledge base and tooling. So here, all we have to do is type in various parameters that we want for our agent, and then it will give us a structured output that we can use inside of our system prompt. So for the agent name, I'm going to type cold email outreach personalization creator. For the agent context, I'm just going to write, you are an expert assistant designed to take data that's been scraped from LinkedIn to create personalized icebreakers for automated cold email outreach. For conversions context, below you can see it asks if this agent is driving towards any conversion events, and if so, how should it do so? For this field, I wrote, the personalization should directly relate to the recipient or company's achievements, initiatives, or standout qualities as described in the input. Personalization information should only cover one key post from the web scrape data that you think would make for a specific and well-defined personalization. The personalization should relate back to the sender, saying something like, I noticed that you are into X, Y, and Z, and I too would consider myself ... so I figured I'd reach out. Something along those lines. The beauty of this tool is you don't have to be too specific or too perfect in what you're putting into this agent. It's going to interpret it into the way that's optimized for a system prompt. For the knowledge context, I'm going to write none because this agent isn't going to have any knowledge-based documents that we're providing to it. The same thing for tools. And for ideal input and output examples, I'm going to say these will be provided outside of the system prompt. And for notes on style, tone of voice, and behavior to avoid, I wrote maintain a clear, concise, informal, and sincere tone throughout the summarization. Aim for sincerity in the summary by focusing on specific, unique details about the company or person that can lead to genuine personalization in the cold email. From here, we can go ahead and run the tool. Then once it's done, below the Run Tool button, we will get the prompt that it's given us. It will give us everything in Markdown format, which the AI models tend to like. So from here, you can go ahead and copy this prompt. Now, I've already run this prompt and optimized it for what this system needs to do. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy and paste that in the system prompt inside of the OpenAI module. So inside of message content, I'm just going to paste this, and then I can expand it here so we can take a better look. And we can check out some of the changes that I've made just to make this a bit more tailored to what we want. So one thing I changed was the examples under this examples header. I wrote icebreaker, love your podcast. I'd consider myself at the intersection of AI and VR as well. Figured I'd reach out. Another one is read through your bio and you have such an interesting background. AI and quantum computing and even working with the government is pretty sick. I think we have similar interests, so I figured I'd reach out. And I just want to know I'm being extra casual with the language because I really want the AI model to take note of that in its outreach, since AI tends to be very formal and professional, which doesn't always seem very genuine. The last example I wrote is love to see your company's passion for advancements in EdTech. It really stuck out to me, so I figured I'd reach out. Under that, I wrote, remember the key is to craft a message that feels personal and sincere using the information available from LinkedIn data. Now, if you wanted to go ahead and take the time from some of the example data you're getting and really make these examples perfect, that will give the AI model a bit more context into how you want your answers formulated. Here are some important notes. Maintain an informal and sincere tone throughout the personalization. The goal is to make the recipient feel like the message was crafted just for them based on genuine interest and shared values. I wrote, you should use casual language as if you're talking with a friend. Only use first-person pronouns I. That's because I'm outreaching as a single person, not a company. That way the AI model doesn't try to say, hey, we really like this, or we really liked that. After that, I said focus on sincerity and specificity in the personalization. Avoid making the message feel automated or generic. Another important thing that I wrote is avoid saying any variation of I'd love to connect. The AI model tends to link LinkedIn with the whole, oh, hey, I saw this and I'd love to connect, and that's not what I'm trying to accomplish in this email. And lastly, I wrote one sentence maximum just to keep everything very concise. From here, we can actually add our user message, which is what the AI is going to respond to. So under the role, I'm just going to select user. And for message content, I wrote keep response as concise as possible. Here's the web scrape data from the company's LinkedIn that we are reaching out to. So I'm just going to hit enter twice, and then I'm going to click the variable that has all of the web scrape data from LinkedIn that we want to provide to the AI model. And that's going to be this text variable after the text parser replace module. Now, I want you to think of this as if it were the prompt that you were sending in the ChatGPT. This is the actual user typing in what they want, and the GPT is going to do with it what it's been told to do in the system prompt. So from here, we can go ahead and test this out. So let's click the magnifying glass, check out the third operation, and you can see that the result is love that Oxford United is providing such a memorable experience for kids at Wembley. As someone who values community initiatives, I figured I'd reach out. And to me, that sounds like a pretty good personalization, a good icebreaker, and that would fit nicely inserted into our email template. Now, one thing that you could do if you found that the AI model is not listening to your prompt well enough is you could come down to show advanced settings, and from here you can change the temperature. You can see that higher temperatures generate more diverse and creative responses, for example 0.8. Lower temperatures generate more focused and well-defined responses, for example 0.2. The default value is 1. So if you're finding that the AI is not really listening to your prompt very well, you can go ahead and lower this. Usually I keep it around 0.6, 0.7, but I'm liking the responses it's giving me now, so I'm just going to leave it at 1. If you really wanted it to be very strict and deterministic, meaning that if you input the same thing over and over, it'll give you the same output, then you could lower this down to about 0.1, 0.2. In the next lesson, we're ready to set up our last module, which will complete the build. Finally, let's add our Google Docs module. Let's go ahead and hit the add button, look up Docs, Google Docs, and we want to hit create a document from a template. From here, we need to choose an account or add a connection for Google Docs. What you want to do is choose the email that the Google document is saved to. I'm just going to go ahead and do that now. So we're going to leave this at by dropdown, my drive, and for document ID, we now need to choose our email template. And so I called mine Automated Spreadsheet Template Demo. From here, we can start inserting our variables. Now, let me just remind you what our email template looks like. You can see because we have first name in double brackets, as well as icebreaker, these variables are automatically detected in the docs module. So what we want to do is click this and then select our first name variable, go to the icebreaker, and from here, we'll select our OpenAI result. Now for the title, I'm going to write company name, row number, and then in parentheses, I'll put back from our Google Sheets, row number, and then the email, just so it's organized in our Google Drive. And then we need to choose a folder to save everything. So I'm gonna go and add a new folder in my Google Drive. So what I'm gonna do is just hit new folder. I'm gonna call this leads templates and then hit create. From here, I can go back into make.com and hit click here to choose folder. And here it is, leads templates. And now you can see I have the leads templates in the new documents location. So all of these documents will be automatically created and saved in this Google Drive. So let's go ahead and save this and give this a test. Right now, this leads templates folder is empty. And if I go back into the scenario, as soon as this hits a 1, if I go back into this folder and refresh, we now have a file in here with our company name, the row number. And so now if I click one of these documents, you can see it automatically fills in all of the fields. Richard, you're one of 2,000. Hey Richard, congrats on your promotion to the EFL Championship. As someone who's equally passionate about growing through challenges, I figured I'd reach out. I built a system for agencies like Top Player, and this is something where we could dynamically insert this based on whatever our niche is, but it's better off to just say, hey, I'm looking at this niche, who's the top player in this niche, and then you could automatically fill this in yourself in the template. So now you see the scenarios completely run. It's run all 10 since we've set the limit to 10 in our Google Sheets. And in our Google Drive, we have all 10 documents in here with a completely tailored cold email. As I mentioned earlier, you could set up this scenario so that it automatically sent all of these emails out. This is what I'm going to be showing you in the next build, which will take you all the way from generating your leads up to sending out 2,000 emails a day. Now that you've seen how you can build this and what each module does, you'll know how you can change this to work for your own template and your own kind of personalizations that you want. The main changes you'd want to make is in the prompting in the AI module. But besides that, this is a system that you can use for yourself or clients, anyone that already has leads that just wants to mass automate their cold emails.